All right, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Pete Olander here with Natural Recovery Greens. Today, I want to talk a little bit about cannabinoids and the history of them because it is a big buzzword out there. CBD, THC, CBG, you name it. People are talking about it because there are a lot of positive stories out there, and I want to get you the truth. So, cannabis sativa, or just the cannabis plant in general, has been used for thousands of years as an herbal remedy. There is records showing that in Asia, different herbologists, if you've called them that, or medicine doctors, use the cannabis plant in their different herbal blends for whatever ailments that they were trying to cure. So there's a long history of it being used for either preventative maintenance or for just the healing effects, healing properties of it. But we'll get more in depth on that a little bit later. But when people hear about the cannabinoid and what that means to them, it's basically a phytonutrient. A phytonutrient basically pigeonholed into compounds found within the cannabis plant. And when you start looking at, okay, who found it? What's the history of it? Why is it called a cannabinoid? No secret, it's called a cannabinoid because it was initially found when they were studying the cannabis plant for its therapeutic benefits. And the CBD, THC, different cannabinoids were first isolated by a gentleman by the name of Roger Adams, and he was an organic chemist out of Harvard, later studied at the University of Illinois. And while he was studying the cannabis plant, he began to extract and isolate different compounds, what we now know as the different cannabinoids today. CBD is the one that he actually, or cannabidiol is the one he actually isolated. And he didn't really know what it was at that point in time, but he was the first to isolate it. And at that point in time, people began to study it, try and understand the benefits of it. But in 1960 is really when they started to test it and figure out, hey, can this compound, this organic compound, can it be isolated and does it have any therapeutic benefits? And they began to study and do animal tests on primates. And these studies began to show, hey, it does have some anti-inflammatory benefits. It does have some benefits to strengthen the immune system. It helps with mood. It helps with some neurological properties. And I really can't disclose, or I can't, speak too much of how that impacts, humans, because it wasn't a human study. But this is what they found on primates at that point in time. And in the 1970s, the British pharmacies, or British pharmaceutical companies, began to produce and sell CBD oil tinctures at that point in time. And, with as more of their herbal remedy, not so much of a medicinal, but an herbal remedy, a preventative maintenance type of concoction, if you will, basically along the lines of the Eastern medicine, an herbal tonic. So it began to gain some, traction that way. At that point in time, studies were underway, specifically in Israel. There had been some U.S. government-funded studies at that point in time too, but they had not been publicized because it was still a controlled substance and there was a negative connotation. So much to the fact that in the 1980s, there was a study released of the benefits of CBD combating seizures in people with epilepsy. And it went largely unnoticed. People didn't want to hear about it. And if you remember kind of the timing at that point in time, the political environment, it was Reagan, say no to drugs. anything that was a controlled substance, people didn't really want to hear it or, really dive down into, hey, why is this happening? Thankfully, some researchers did, and that is when they discovered the CB1 receptors, which are tied to your brain, your spinal cord, central nervous system. And then a little bit later, a couple years later, in the early 90s, they actually proved out that, hey, guess what? There's CB2 receptors as well. CB2 receptors are found in your liver, your kidneys, your pancreas, your bones, your muscles, have a huge benefit to your immune system and your skin. So they started to find out, hey, the human body is a very complicated thing, and we're still figuring out to this day. But what they did find is there are other receptors in your body that are activated and produce results based on basically grabbing these cannabinoids. They have a positive effect. And this isn't, this was breaking news at the time, or breaking, science news, because there's also, people don't understand, is these same compounds, your body produces them. But when you start having issues is when you don't have enough of the cannabinoids. For example, cannabinoids are amino acids, they're breakdown of molecular structures in your body. Mother's milk, breast milk, has cannabinoids. It's why you see a baby who's breastfeeding gets that calming feeling. It has something to do with the cannabinoid effect. Now, when people's bodies are out of whack, some people call it, homeostasis, when you're in balance and your body's operating, efficiently, and you're processing nutrients, and your mood's regulated, your sleep's regulated, your hormonal balance is good. That's what's called homeostasis. When you don't actually have those cannabinoids or amino acids or compounds, in perfect balance with your body, that's when your mood starts to get out of whack. That's when your sleep gets out of whack. That's when your hormones get out of whack. It affects your appetite. So once again, it's about getting your body back in balance so you can actually, be as efficient as possible. So back to the 90s, that's when they discovered, hey, it affects your brain. And guess what? There's receptors all throughout your body, which makes perfect sense, because the mind-body, there is a connection there. And that's what I firmly believe. And phytonutrients, vitamins, minerals, everything, all play a part in helping your body basically regenerate and operate efficiently. So much so that in 2003, I think the date is October 7th, 2003, after years and years of studying, the US government filed a patent on CBD, so cannabidiol, as a neuroprotectant and anti-inflammatory. Now, they did also disclose in there that other cannabinoids would have similar effects, but they specifically called out CBD as the cannabinoid that is the most powerful in the anti-inflammatory effects and neurological protection, of the brain. So it's very interesting that they did this, yet it's kind of under the rug because they also didn't take it off the controlled substance list. So it was still a controlled substance, yet they're protecting their interests because they know it has a therapeutic benefit. So that is a little bit about the history of CBD as most people know it today. Now, if you were to look at what really is a cannabinoid, once again, as I mentioned previously, it's called that. It's a phytonutrient because it was found within the cannabis plant. And if you start looking at other plant species, other organic material, I firmly believe, and science has proved it out, that there are other therapeutic benefits of other compounds. Ginger, turmeric are two that come to mind. They're widely known and praised for their anti-inflammatory effects. You look at fruits and veggies, for antioxidant protection, to help your immune system, to help boost, get your skin, looking as healthy as it can. They're all play a part. And what we did at Natural Recovery Greens is we found, hey, the best, most nutrient dense foods out there, and paired them with CBD, something that helps your body regulate itself so it actually is receptive and able to heal and take in nutrients at the right pace, and loading it up with exactly what you need at the right time without any sugar. And we've had some tremendous success stories of people taking it. And please join in, because it is honestly nature's collab. Check it out. Thanks again, guys.